All right, everybody, this is a video lecture the whole topic of today is social media and social work ethics. So this video is the part one to it. Because our class objectives for today is just to provide that general overview of what social media actually is and why is it relevant to social work practice. So that's really what we're leaning into in this video. There'll be additional videos and learning activities that talk about the ethics and the ethical principles around social media and social work practice. Kind of looking at some ethical dilemmas and learning policies and guidelines for ethically using social media in social work practice. So just going to spend some time in this first video really kind of just acclimating us to what social media actually is. You have to be living under a rock to not have heard of social media. Even if you're not on it, there's pieces of it that influence our lives greatly. So I think it's just good to do a little refresher on what exactly is social media. And is it our friend or is it our enemy? So what exactly is social media? So social media encompasses all websites and apps that enable users to connect, share information, create online communities. And this can be done through various forms of communication. They can be through text, photos, videos, chats, online forums, live streams. There's so many components to social media. I just off the top of my head listed some of the more popular social media websites. That includes Facebook, Instagram, X, which used to be Twitter back in my day. There's TikTok, there's YouTube Kids now, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and there's so many more I'm constantly learning about all the time. I've been introduced to Yik Yak. That was a new one that I learned from my college freshman. There's the Be Real. I didn't mention like the Truth media platform. There's just so many, and it continues to grow and evolve. There's different platform types within social media. So that could just be like the basic video and photo sharing. That's kind of what Instagram tends to be, although you can kind of get some live streams on there. Can be used for networking. So thinking about like LinkedIn, that's a huge networking professional site. Although all these other platforms can be used for networking too, or apps, I guess, not platforms. People will blog, there'll be discussion boards. So thinking like Reddit, there can be community building. There's so many different ways people tap into social media, and it can be good and it could be bad. So they say that people use social media for various purposes, like I was just kind of alluding to. They might have connections with friends, with family. So this has been a great way if like you are not physically close to like your friends and families, like where you live. This is a way to show updates on your family, your friends, your job, your life in general, to stay connected that way. It's kind of like a technology pen pal. You can share information. So I'm constantly going to different social media sites to look at the weather. Currently, it is raining, potentially storming out. So we kind of get knowing what's going on. People will create online communities. So like I'm part of online communities for my daughter who has a cleft lip and palate. So I'm part of lots of communities online to kind of give information and support on navigating kind of the physical and emotional pieces of that diagnosis. People can use it to discuss and debate ideas, and they can also use it to promote their businesses and brands. So I think influencers, that type of thing. So we've got just some fun facts about social media. So if you had to take a guess on when social media was created, I am actually curious to know when you would place that at. So I was actually surprised by this answer. Social media was technically created in 1997. So I would have been 13 years old. I don't think any of you guys were born yet. So you've lived in a world maybe a few. No, I think maybe one of you have been born. But most of you in the class have been alive with social media being a thing. You don't know a world without social media. But in 1997, the first social media, I guess, was called 6degrees.com. It just allowed kind of that basic networking idea of creating a profile and connecting with others. that kind of transformed into other platforms in the early 2000s. So like Friendster, MySpace. Again, I don't even know if some people in the class might have heard about that. MySpace was life when I was in college. You could blog, you would put like your best friends, and then you pick like a background song. It was pretty epic. I don't even know how to log into my MySpace anymore. And when I've done like a Google search on myself, my MySpace page from back in college kept popping up, and I was like, how can I delete this? But anyways, yes. So after that, we kind of saw the rise of Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So the big, I think, turning point where it became kind of more universal was in 2004 when Facebook, which was founded by Mark Zuckerberg, it used to be just a Harvard exclusive, and then it started turning into other, it was like connected to colleges specifically. You had to be part of a university or college in order to make a profile, but now that's obviously changed and it's accessible to everybody. 2005, YouTube came. 2006, Twitter launched. 2010, Instagram emerged, kind of focusing on photo sharing versus like giving updates. Then in 2011, Snapchat was launched as well. And since then, I kind of just stopped at that because it just kind of shows the progression. But since then, obviously, we've gotten TikTok and all of the other ones too. But it's been growing and emerging in different ways and becoming more ingrained in our lives since 1997. So another question to ask. So all the statistics that I took from this were from a study from a year ago, so January 2025. If you had to guess how many people were active users on social media platforms. Well, as of 2025, 5.24 billion people were using social media worldwide, according to platform reports on the current number of active users. So when you're looking at eligible audiences 18 and older, 86.6% of the world's population is active on social media. So if you're thinking, oh, why are we talking about this in the social work context? Well, more than likely your clients are going to be utilizing social media in some shape or form. And we're not going to focus about that in today's lecture, but the impact can be pretty significant mentally, physically. There's pieces of social media use that can impact us. So it's just good to know that it's probably something that's pretty present and aware with our clients. So out of the 8.12 billion people in the world, 63% of the population use social networks regardless of age or internet access. And out of the 5.56 billion internet users, I think it says 94 are active users. So very prevalent, very, very prevalent. All right. And what is the average number of platforms people use? If you had to guess, just get the guess in your head, how many different accounts or platforms do people use? The average is people who are 16 above who regularly access social media platforms. They access 6.83 different types of platforms. So it's not just I use this one, but we use all of them, and our lives are deeply entrenched in the social media world. This is just a fun graph of which gender uses social media, different platforms. I just thought Pinterest was funny that there was far more females than males who use Pinterest. More males use Facebook and YouTube, pretty much all of them but Pinterest. Oh, you scared me. Still recording. About 5-ish minutes. Okay. I'll wrap it up and come down. Dinner's ready, but I'm going to finish recording this. Thank you. All right. So the last question I think on this is, how are social workers using social media platforms? So here we have this tool that is widely utilized by probably social workers and all of their clients. So how can we utilize this, or how are social workers utilizing this to be an effective tool in their practice? So there's some really good things that social workers can do to utilize social media platforms. So I think a huge one is using it for advocacy and awareness. So if you go onto Facebook and probably Instagram or TikTok, like NSAW has pages, CSWE has pages, and they're often posting ways to advocate for policy changes or raising awareness on topics. So you can do a lot of campaigns to raise awareness. So even thinking about like topical awareness. So if you are really passionate about, let's say like ending homelessness, you might tap into a campaign or a 5K run and use your social media to raise awareness around a certain topic. So that can be campaigns, policy changes, or simply providing education on a topic. Kuiper Social Work Program has a Facebook page, and often Professor Colin and I will use it to highlight a certain month that's happening. So like mental health, I think there's Mental Health Awareness Day a while back. So we talked about ways to support people who are experiencing poor mental health. We've talked about self-care. So we can provide pretty basic education on there. Another huge one is professional development. So when you get your degree and if you get licensed, you'll have to do what are called continuing education units. So you can find lots of trainings on there, on on the internet, for finding CEUs that maybe you wouldn't be able to attend to because they're out of state. But since you can do it on the internet and you can find out and advertise them over social media platforms, you can then access them. Networking is another great one. I am part of a Grand Rapids social workers page. And from that, I've been able to obtain internships for people. Like if I'm running into problems finding openings or there's a specific population, I have gotten internship connections from there. So many different things. I think I even posted it potentially on there, like when a former student needed for the research class had to poll social workers about some things. They pop it up there and people respond. It's a great way to network with other professionals. And it's also a great place to provide support. So online support groups are a thing. If you think all the way back to HPSI 1, when we talked about communities, we talked about territorial and relational communities. Online platforms often result in these online communities. Like I mentioned even before, like my cleft support groups. I mean, I'm part of the primary group that I like utilize. The founder is in Arizona. And so never would have connected with that had I not had the internet, because I'm not traveling to Arizona to find people to talk about cleft supports. But it's provided a really good sense of support, especially when I was newer into the journey. There can be direct messaging opportunities that people can use. And so that can be incorporated into like telehealth services. There's also like there's like the online number, like the suicide crisis number. There's a domestic violence number. So you can Google that. You can then tap into, there's like chat features. And so it's helping people stay connected in crisis. And it's also a great way to build community, both for professionals and if you're working with clients who might be experiencing some anxiety about social situations, maybe starting online so you don't have to like get out of the house, go face to face. It might be a safer way for clients to start working on their anxiety around social situations. So many great opportunities to utilize social media. And these are just a few of them. This is not inclusive at all. So, since we're not in person, we're not going to go up to the whiteboard and identify the pros and cons of the presence of social media and social work practice. So this is actually going to be a question in the week 11.1 quiz. So just get your minds thinking about what are the pros and cons to the presence of social media and social work practice. So that is the end of this video. We're going to start part 2 talking about the ethics next. And I'm going to go eat supper. That is probably ready now.